Good evening, everyone. My name is Brandon Smith. I'm Chair of Community Board 2's Health, Environment, Social Services Committee. I'd like to welcome you to tonight's meeting. There's a few announcements I have to make at the beginning of each meeting. First of all, we should all note that this meeting, having been called to order, is being recorded. The purpose of recording is for public access and archiving in accordance with the New York State Open Meetings Law. It's a practice of Community Board 2 to conduct remote meetings with all committee members' cameras on. Public attendees are also encouraged to leave their cameras on, particularly if you're given the floor to speak. All attendees, please keep your microphone muted when you are not speaking. To maintain an appropriate discussion and voting process, I will make it known when and which topics are open for comment by committee members, board members at large, and the general public. If you have questions that fall outside of public comment time, please type your questions in the chat panel and we will address them as time permits. You may also email the district office at any time outside of these meetings. We are committed to providing access for all of our neighbors, regardless of physical ability or limitation. If you require accommodation or assistance for full participation, please contact the district office 72 hours before any public meeting. We also ask everyone speaking or presenting to use plain language, speak at a moderate tone, and frequently ask if you're speaking loud enough. If presenting, read the title of each slide and describe any images on the slide, such as photos, graphs, and charts, so that everyone can fully appreciate what's being presented. I also emphasize at every meeting that what's fundamental to this meeting being appropriate and successful is that we all show respect for each other. That matters whether you're a member of the committee, member of the public, or a presenter or an applicant or an attorney who's coming to this forum. We should all treat each other with respect. And if anyone is being disrespectful to any other person on this call, I reserve the right to ask the board office to remove you from the call. With that said, I'm going to proceed into the agenda for tonight's meeting. And the first thing that I'm going to do is ask for the other members of the committee to introduce themselves. So, Ms. McKnight, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good evening, everyone. I am Nicole McKnight, Vice Chair of the committee and board member.
Thank you. Ms. Thurston?
Hi, I'm Jessica Thurston, Secretary of this committee and of the board.
Thank you. Mr. Andrews?
Yep, it's Victor and I'm in the building.
Great. Thank you, Victor. Victor's a member of the committee. Ms. Anadu?
Hello, Emily Anadu. I'm a member of the HESS committee and a member of Community Board 2.
Great. Ms. Cumberbatch?
Good evening. I am a member of the community board and a member of HESS.
Excellent. And Ms. Muller, do you want to introduce yourself from the board office?
Hi everyone, Taya Miller from the board office. Been very nice communicating with you all this month. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. And we're very appreciative of your work. The board office is a bit understaffed at the moment, and Ms. Muller is pulling a lot. And by a lot, I mean 100% of the weight herself at the moment. So we all have great appreciation, and we will hopefully try to show great patience considering that state of affairs. We're also very happy to be joined by member of the board, Latrell Masso. I'll call out any other board members who attend, but for now, I'd like to proceed into tonight's agenda. Could I ask for a motion on tonight's agenda?
Second.
Okay, motion Jessica, second Victor. Any changes, or does anybody disapprove of the agenda at tonight's meeting? If so, please speak now. Okay, agenda is unanimously approved. Minutes from February 2022. Boy, I can't even remember. We're in March now. This is February 2022. Can I get a motion for the minutes from February 2022?
Second,
Okay, I got a motion. I think that's gonna go Monique. Is that you with the
Yes.
motion? Okay, and Victor with the second. Any edits, corrections, concerns, or opposition or abstaining to the minutes being approved from last month? Great, the minutes are unanimously approved. Next up, we've got the COVID-19 update, and I want to thank Ms. Anadu for stepping in while Mr. Newmark has stepped away from the committee for a little bit. And Ms. Anadu, are you ready to go? And do you need some help with getting the presenting?
Yes.
Or
Tay and I have worked it out. We have rehearsed and we are ready to go. I am doing apologies to everyone. I'm doing this with a mask on in an Uber because COVID is still very much a thing. And so thank you for your patience and thank you very much, Taya. So as Brandon said, I will be doing the COVID-19 updates. So it's been a while. Obviously, it's been a month. A lot happens in a month. So we'll look at the district and also just where we fall in the grand scheme of the city and the state. So jumping right in, next slide. So overall, New York City is trending in the right direction. And so these, what you're looking at are some of the key indicators that the public health officials look at. And so as you can see here, everything from the positivity rate, and to be clear, that is the positivity rate of those who have been tested, not of overall looking at the population. But again, you see the column in the middle is, or the first column of numbers is looking at the 7-day averages versus to the right is looking at 28-day averages. And so you see there that we are definitely trending in the right direction. So we've seen a drop from a 20-day average of 3.54 to down to under 2% daily average in terms of percent positivity. And that is as of March 1st, which can't believe we're already March 1st. So next slide. This slide I added because while we are, we are not out of the woods, but we are seeing bright light through the woods. And so let us get into why I say that while things are looking good for New York City, we have some work to do here in Community Board 2. So for anyone that did not see the picture, it is a beautiful trees in the forest with sunshine. So getting right into where we fall for CB2, unfortunately, there are pockets of CB2 that are seeing higher positivity rates than New York City overall. And so looking at as broken up in 6 different areas, as defined by the city and city mapping, you see that while, as I mentioned, the New York City positivity rate is about 1.94, we have some really troubling numbers in Brooklyn Heights, Dumbo, downtown Brooklyn area, where we're seeing about a 2.46% positivity rate, and then also Boerum Hill and Park Slope. While those neighborhoods are not doing well, we are seeing some encouraging numbers in Fort Greene, where I live. Go Fort Greene, sorry. Williamsburg South doing well, under 1% there. East Williamsburg, Williamsburg North, Williamsburg South, also under the city's rate, as well as Clinton Hill, Prospect Heights. One of the things that also is important to look at is just basically their people testing. So we're also seeing good testing numbers. So median daily test rates for all of the different areas. And again, medians is the number in the middle versus an average number of people tested. And that's looking at how much testing is basically going on per 100,000 residents. But those numbers are important because they are all statistically significant, whereas there are actually pockets of the city where there's not enough testing going on to actually understand if the numbers are statistically significant. So in terms of total cases, we're seeing total cases, and that reflects since COVID started. But while those numbers are important, I think it's really important that we're not looking at absolutes, that we have to take into account where we are in terms of per 100,000 residents. And so while you see a number, for example, in the Dumbo, Brooklyn Heights area of about 13,000 cases, or which seems low compared to obviously 27 or 22, when you look at that for 100,000 residents, it's actually, not great, but some of the more troubling, I would say, cases per 100,000 are in the Williamsburg South, East Williamsburg areas. Then the other number, just wanted to point out, the other numbers here that we want to point out are around just looking at deaths. And so unfortunately, for some reason, there was no data on deaths in the Fort Greene, Bedside, Clinton Hill area. And so hopefully we'll have those for the next report, or those will come online soon. But overall, again, similar to my comments on not wanting to just look at absolute numbers, and it's important to look at these numbers in context, we're seeing that while some of the numbers, for example, you know, in Borum Hill or Park Slope look low, when you look at those numbers in terms of per 100,000 residents, they actually are fairly high. So before I go on, are there any questions on that slide? And this information will all be available on the public drive, and there are links to all the source data if anyone does have any questions. And with that, we'll go to the next slide. So then even specifically, another number that the CDC and health officials look at is transition rates. And so this is literally looking at just how fast and far it's spreading. And so that goes on a range from, you know, good to moderate to substantial. So overall, New York City is in the moderate area, whereas Brooklyn also in moderate, but then again, we're seeing pockets of concern within CB2. And so here you see that basically downtown, Brooklyn Heights, Slopes, and some of the zip codes, they're seeing substantial rates of transmission. And so that's looking at basically the past 7 days. And so you see that where New York considered moderate at 47, this area that I called out as pockets of concern are in the 80s. And so that is anything that gets to close to double should be concerning for all of us. So again, the message here is just we all need to stay vigilant. And with that, we can go to the next slide. So all of this, vaccinations matter. And so one of the things that we see in the city, and I know that there's a lot of talk of, well, why should I get a vaccination? People I know who have been vaccinated are still getting COVID. The important thing is that when it comes to hospitalizations and deaths, you're not seeing high numbers, or you're seeing lower numbers, so less chance of being hospitalized and less chance of death as we're seeing people get vaccinated. And next slide. So one of the other things I saw that was fairly interesting in the data is basically this idea of 1 dose versus 2 doses, or versus, as we would refer to it, as full vaccinations. So interestingly enough, in the data, one of the things I saw was that while 18 to 24-year-olds who were earlier on a group that I think felt invincible and wasn't necessarily getting vaccinated, while they are getting that first dose at rates you would see in some of the older populations, where you are seeing a gap is that they don't seem to be following through with getting the second dose. So again, just a reminder, first dose is great, but fully vaccinated is even better. We're also seeing, just from a ethnic standpoint, that there also does seem to be a gap in terms of going from that first dose to getting full vaccinations within the Hispanic and Latino communities. Any questions there as I unlock my door? Okay, we'll keep going. Next slide. So Brooklyn, unfortunately, is the least vaccinated of any borough in New York City. And so, oh, whoops. Sorry, I just hit my side button. Apologies, team. Okay, so if we just hit the next build, Taya, and you can actually go ahead and do all the builds there. So we see that Brooklyn falls in the lowest, is just at the lowest rate of vaccination of any borough. And this is when we're looking at all ages. But where you see that basically the numbers and our averages overall are being brought down by the children. So basically ages 5 to 17 in terms of vaccination. So the only borough this is the only place where we don't fall at the absolute bottom. So Staten Island falls just below, is above us in terms of less vaccinated children in that age group. But again, just still seeing some troubling numbers in terms of certain groups not being vaccinated within Brooklyn overall. Next slide. So even more interesting, again, just digging into the data, that there are specific populations that seem to be significantly under vaccinated as compared to the general population. So specifically in this slide, where you have going from basically a light green all the way to a dark blue, with the lightest green being lower vaccination rates or residents with at least one dose, and the darker blue representing higher vaccination rates. Specifically, white and Black residents have the lowest vaccination rates, and not by a couple of points, but by a considerable gap. So looking at all ages, if you look at overall borough-wide in Brooklyn, we're at about 78% with one dose. Within the Black population, 63%, white population, 58%. And then you see even bigger spreads when it comes to certain age groups. So specifically within white residents, 5 to 12 age group, number 4 out of 5 in terms of boroughs. And so basically being second to last in terms of vaccination of that age group. And then within 13 to 17-year-old white residents, lowest vaccination rates in the city. And again, not by a small number, but by pretty considerable gaps. And so whereas the overall for the city is 55%, within white 13 to 17-year-olds in Brooklyn, that number is 37%. So I didn't get into causality, but just pointing out some numbers where we're seeing differences from the overall population. Next slide. When speaking more specifically about our district, one of the things that we're also seeing is that unfortunately, while overall the city is going well, we are lagging behind overall New York City vaccination rates. There is one peculiar thing, or a couple of peculiar things that I saw in the data. So specifically Brooklyn Heights, Dumbo downtown, and then also Borum Hill and Park Slope, which I pointed out had considerably much higher 7-day positivity rates than New York City. They are actually also some of the most vaccinated parts of CB2. So again, cannot explain causality on that, but again, just pointing out what's in the data. So for some reason, and again, the positivity rate is looking at the last 7 days, whereas obviously the vaccination rates are overall. So again, not sure what's going on there, but it's just an interesting something that's going on where despite high vaccinations, we're also seeing just higher positivity rates in a couple of pockets of CB2. Next slide. Oh, that's just the appendix. Okay, I'm done. That was it. So I think again, basically, and that's just appendix for anyone who wants the full deck. But again, I think the message here is just stay vigilant. COVID is not done by any stretch of the imagination. And so we should all, again, just be careful. I would have taken off my mask if I had 2 free hands. I'm not saying you should mask while you're by yourself, but you get the point, everyone. So let us know if you have any questions, but this deck will be available publicly in the drive. And that's it for me.
Thanks, Emily. That was fantastic. I think we're all extremely impressed with the quality of that work, and feel very fortunate that you put this together for us. I'll reserve further comments, but questions from members of the committee for Emily? Comments, thoughts? Well, I'll just say that I look forward to seeing what we can do with this in future months, and I think it's a really fantastic presentation. Mr. Varela, you've joined us. Did you want to say anything? I introduce yourself for the evening. You're a member of the committee. That's why I wanted to call you out.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, I was talking for a while. Sorry.
Oh, well, I could just hear you now. So
okay, sorry about that.
You want to
My
repeat
apologies.
anything else besides can you hear me?
Yeah, Emily, spectacular. That presentation is really great. Thank you. I wanted maybe for a moment just to speculate about the disparity between high rate of vaccination and then the higher positivity rate in some neighborhoods within our community. And I wonder if it's because of the kind of, I don't know, courage or confidence one feels once they're vaccinated, because to have such a part of the community that has such a high rate suspects to me that there's trust that the vaccine works. There's kind of an awareness of how the vaccine works. And then there's kind of like, okay, I did it. I put up the barrier that I was meant to, and now I'm going to go live my life. And so Omicron was spreading rather quickly. It was more contagious, and they had less fear of being in the hospital, which is in line with the sort of mood that seems to be taking over the country, which is like, you know what, if I'm going to get it, I'm going to get it I'm vaccinated. So I wondered about that. And then that seems like a possible theory to me. And then the other is just the surprise that the youth within our community, how the spread between us and Manhattan, for example, for 5 to 17-year-olds it's astounding. I can't wrap my brain around.
Yes, one thing that I was thinking, so one, agree with your first hypothesis. So actually just, I was going to just separately, and I'll follow up, dig into basically to your point about high vaccination and the higher positivity rates. If the higher positivity rates, if most of those people are vaccinated, because then I think, yes, it would support the thought that invincibility, there's a belief of invincibility, or that it's not that bad. Because also what we're seeing is that now, whereas even a month ago, 2 months ago, the rate of basically of people that were showing positive COVID tests, that it was a split of some Delta from the past one. Now it's 100% Omicron is all that we're seeing. And so that definitely, I think there could be that. I think also for me, part of it's a slightly different point than you were making, but the idea that there's a lot of youth that don't seem to be following through on the second dose, I think that also has a likely, or my hypothesis on that would be that because so many places just required you to at least have 1 dose for entry, that people did what they needed to for access and entry versus the actual point of being vaccinated, which is actual, hopefully, not getting COVID and not getting sick and being hospitalized. But definitely some interesting things to dig into. And so I will try and follow up on these for the April update.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you both. I think, again, that was a really fantastic presentation, and we're certainly not done with this. This is something that we're going to have to probably, who knows how long it's all going to go, but there does seem to be that sensibility that at different intervals throughout this entire crisis, that people have an instinct to be like, oh, we're done with this now. And we seem to be at another one of those moments now. And maybe we are, maybe we're not, but we'll follow up on it again next month. Want to move forward on the agenda for the evening. But first, because I didn't ask, I want to make sure I asked, did anyone who's not a committee member from the public or board member have a question for Emily or about the presentation? I see we're joined by Ms. Einhorn. Ms. Einhorn, did you want to introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, everybody. Apologies for being late. My name is Lindsay Einhorn, and I am a community board member and a committee member. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So we have a section next entitled Open Session for Public Comment on Approved Agenda Items. I will remind everyone that we have different liquor license presentations coming up. And at the conclusion of the presentations, I will also solicit public opinion, which may be more informed having heard the presentation. But before we hear the presentation, is there anybody who just can't wait to get their comment out about the agenda items that we have coming up? I'd be happy to entertain anyone's comment from a member of the community about our approved agenda items.
Brandon, this is Elke. I guess I'm chiming in about an item that wasn't on the agenda.
Well, we do have a community forum for that at the end.
Okay.
But for the agenda items, this is a time for anyone who got something they just can't wait to talk about in regards to the agenda items. We have this session on the agenda. But thank you for mentioning that, and we'll absolutely loop you in a little bit later. All right, I'm going to move along to our first item on the section 7 of our agenda, recommendations to the State Liquor Authority, 445 Gold Street, also known as Alamo Drafthouse. I think we have some people here from that location. The question might be who, and can we get the application up on the screen?
Hi, Brandon. This is Alex Victor. I'm an attorney for Alamo. There's also Eugene Pillman. We work together. He's here for Alamo. He has some of the details. I know Brian Poff is with Alamo.
Okay. That's great. Could you just kind of give us a sense first, because we know that Alamo is already in the community, like what's the purpose that you're coming here for?
Certainly. So as you may be aware, due to the hardship of the COVID-19 pandemic, Alamo had to emerge through a bankruptcy sale. As a result of this sale, there's going to be a new corporate entity. It's going to be Alamo City Point Buyer LLC that will be the owner and the principal licensed entity for this establishment. So as a result, we brought this application as a new application. We also could have considered a corporate change application, but the new application provides a mechanism to obtain the, I guess, expedited temporary permit. So this would complete the bankruptcy transaction and allow the new entity to take over full control of the establishment.
So Brandon, the long and short of it is, there's no change to anything that anybody would notice about Alamo Brooklyn's operation. And in fact, even though there's been this bankruptcy, the people who are in control and responsible before are still the ones responsible and in control. It's just changes at very high levels of a corporate structure.
Okay, so it's the same folks, same hours, and
same diagrams, same hours, same everything that was approved. I don't know how many years ago, but if we could have just photocopied that, we would have done it again.
Okay. In the course of the operation, has there been any concern expressed to you all from members of the community about the Drafthouse?
Nope. And what I'd say to the contrary is a few years ago, but I was working with Alamo on a license in downtown Manhattan in the financial district. And for that community board, we wanted to reach out to the locations where Alamo was already licensed in New York. And actually, we got a very nice letter from your board attesting to their presence in Brooklyn, their sort of quality of operation, and just being a good business neighbor for the community.
Okay. I remember when this was approved several years ago when it first came, and I recall there was some concern about security that was discussed at that meeting. Do you feel that the security has been able to handle the people who are coming there okay? Because I think there was sort of a reliance on the mall to manage the security, as I recall, but like you don't have your own personal, you don't have your security staff. But if you could clarify that point, maybe point out anywhere where I was wrong, that would be good.
It's funny. I remember that conversation very well too. I'm going to punt to Brian and Quinn, because I can tell you, I've heard nothing the past 5 years, 4 years about any issues. But I do remember, when Alamo came there, they said, well, this is how the security works. This is what we do it, our dozens of other places, and we haven't had an issue. And there's someone on the board that said, well, this is Brooklyn, so you better gear up. And all I can tell you is I haven't heard anything. The SLA's never come back and cited a problem. So, barring that, Brian, Quinn, has there been anything that?
No, we haven't had any issues, any violations. In fact, whenever we've had some really big shows, like when there's a new Star Wars or a new Avengers or Batman or Joker, sometimes we'll bring in additional security at our own expense, just to make sure that we're kind of doubly covered in addition to the security that the mall is already providing.
Yeah, and to tack onto that, and hello, by the way, everybody. I'm Mike Rushton. I'm the Director of Operations for the East Coast, and I'm the original General Manager of this location, and we love the community, and we love y'all. We actually have some private security on site this weekend, right, with Batman coming out, very big release. So we will, when I'd say the size of the opening, right, we will get private security on site, and so we actually have them on site Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday this weekend. So not to put too fine a point on it, but since we happen to be doing that this weekend, thought I'd share.
Okay. And for the record, there was a letter of support received by the board office, and there's notes in the chat about how there haven't been any complaints that have been reported. Members of the committee, are there any questions for the applicants? I'm not seeing any, so I'm just going to raise it to members of the public. Anybody else here at the meeting? Do you have any questions for these applicants? All right, hearing none. Can I get a motion from someone on the committee?
Motion to approve.
Okay, Jessica moves, I second. Any discussion?
Second.
Oh, you're too late, Victor.
Oh,
So I vote in favor. Jessica, how do you vote? Jessica votes in favor. Victor, how do you vote?
favor.
Okay, Ms. McKnight, how do you vote?
Yes.
Who's next? Ms. Cumberbatch,
In favor.
Mr. Varela,
In favor.
Ms. Nadu,
Approved. Or in favor.
we got you either way. And Ms. Einhorn,
In favor.
great, unanimously approved. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you all very much. We love Brooklyn.
Great,
We do too.
that's right.
Thank you.
Next up on tonight's agenda, 497 Atlantic, Porcellino. We have somebody here from that location.
You have Phil Dorn here. For whatever reason, my video doesn't want to work. But can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, maybe my video.
See you too.
Okay, there
We can also see you, yeah.
Good, great. I hope I look okay because I can't see myself. Before I begin, I just want to make sure my guys are on here, Nick and Dave. I saw they were on the same screen, so it's probably just.
We were here.
Yep, great. See you guys.
Hello.
All right. Well, my name is Phil Dorn. I'm with Pizzeria and Bookman, attorney for the applicants. With me, like I just mentioned, are Dave Kornbluth and Nick Pentagiulio, who are the owners of Onderdonk LLC, otherwise known as Il Porcellino. Dave and Nick are looking to open an upscale cocktail bar on Atlantic Ave. They have extensive experience in the hospitality arena. Dave has over 30 years experience doing everything from chefing to GMing to consulting and even bartending. He's currently a private chef. Nick also has 5 or so years under his belt in the food and beverage industry. So together it's a strong team with a lot of experience. The plan here is to bring to the neighborhood a cafe during the day, and then, like I said, an upscale cocktail bar at night. There are no TVs, it's not a loud sports bar, it's simply background music only. There are 26 seats inside with an additional 14 at the bar, so that makes 40 indoors total. And then there are 26 in the back patio area. The cafe will open at 8 a.m. each day, which indicates their intention to not just be a late night bar. It will close at 1 a.m. during the week and 2 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. The last thing I'll say is that Nick is a resident of this community. He lives just a few blocks away. Dave is looking to become a resident of the community. He's looking to move to Borum Hill shortly. The two of them treasure this neighborhood and are excited to bring a new business to the area. They did a lot of outreach for this project, gaining support of several nearby residents, and they hope to get your support too. So with that, I'll leave it to you folks.
Okay, great. Could I just ask what's the nature of the outdoor seating? Is this a sidewalk cafe, a backyard?
It's a backyard. There's a photo of it if you're just about there. It's a back patio. I wouldn't call it a yard.
Okay. And do you have residents above?
That right there, that building on the side, which is 495 Atlantic.
Right, but I mean like directly above in, like you're on the ground
in our
level or
own
on the
building?
second level. Yeah.
Yeah, our building is a 3-story building, so there are a few units. I'm not sure how many look exactly directly down onto the patio, but yes, there are a few residents.
Okay. Has someone spoken with the residents about the establishment and are there any concerns that have been expressed?
Nick and Dave both spent time outside the unit trying to solicit signatures and speak to people specifically in the building. Dave was able to speak to a few residents in passing, got nothing but support from my best understanding. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he was able to speak to all of them, but definitely a few of them.
Okay. This was previously the restaurant Kind of Soul, I recall.
Yes.
Okay.
Soul food.
Yeah, that was between Henry and Third Avenue, I think is your cross street.
I think Third and
No,
Devon.
not Third. Yeah, Third and Evans. Sorry, my bad. All right. Questions from members of the committee?
Question.
Miss Anadu.
Sorry, I couldn't get to the hand raise thing.
That's all right.
Thank you so much for your application. And appreciate and thank you, Taya, for the update that notices were put outside the premises. So for the people that are surrounding the backyard, are you allowing smoking in the backyard? I guess I just want to make
No,
that
no smoking on premises at all. No.
Okay, great. And just because obviously with the notices on the
Yeah.
front, I was just making sure that people who
Yeah,
maybe wouldn't
absolutely.
actually be walking that.
Yep, you bet.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Andrews.
what about your bathrooms? Is that accessible as well? How many bathrooms do you? I didn't hear that mentioned at all.
It broke up a little bit there.
So the question is about whether or not you have ADA accessibility in your restaurant,
we do.
specifically like the
Yeah.
doorway, the bathroom, wheelchair accessibility, stuff
The
like
whole
that.
place is ADA accessible, including the bathroom.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
All right. Any other questions from the committee for the applicants?
Alejandro here. I apologize if I missed it. Did you say how many people you expect to employ?
We're going to start off slow as we're gearing up, but Phil, go ahead.
No. Finish, Dave, please.
So I imagine that at some point, at full employment, between 10, maybe 14.
Okay. This is a kind of a blanket statement that I'll probably make for all the applications. It has no bearing on your application, won't influence your our decisions either way. Just want to encourage you to hire locally. We still have strong pockets of unemployment in the community. Pre, post, during this pandemic, the next one, the next recession, there are always pockets that stay with higher rates of unemployment. They tend to be brown and black pockets within the community. So we highly encourage that you hire Black and brown people to work in your store. Again, no bearing on your application, but please do.
We hear that and we appreciate that sentiment. Like I said, Nick is a member of this community, and Dave in all of his endeavors in the food and hospitality industry in the last few decades, he has he's exerted a lot of effort to being an active member in his community with outreach for the community and as far as donating to schools and churches and hiring locally. That is absolutely what these two plan to do.
Okay, and if you need any guidance with hiring locally, I'm hesitant to volunteer the office right now, but if you want to get in touch, they can put you in touch with one of us about.
We will do that.
And typically, we encourage folks to check out Brooklyn Navy Yard and Ingersoll Community Center and Fort Greene Snap as good locations. Maybe Fort Greene Snap is closer to you. I don't know. Questions from members of the public or board members for this application, 497 Atlantic Avenue? Anyone have a comment or question? Right. And I saw we had in the chat that there was a letter of support and 67 petition signatures and no concerns expressed. So does anybody want to make a motion?
I motion to approve.
Ms. McKnight, we have a second.
Second.
Second from Alejandro, you're too slow.
Yeah, it was Victor.
It was Victor. Victor gets the second. All right, discussion on the motion. All right, no discussion. Ms. McKnight, how do you vote?
Approve.
Okay. Mr. Andrews,
In favor.
Mr. Varela,
In favor.
Ms. Thurston,
In favor.
Ms. Anadu,
In favor.
Ms. Cumberbatch,
Approve.
and Ms. Einhorn.
Approve.
And I vote approved also. So congratulations, good luck. It's hard
Thank
out
you.
there on
you
Atlantic
very
Avenue.
much.
Wish you the best.
Thank you.
We
Come and see us.
appreciate that.
All right. Thank you.
Have a great night.
All right. Table 87, 87 Atlantic Avenue. Do we have somebody here from that location?
Yes, Mr. Smith. Good evening. Anthony Caraballo with the licensee Timothy McDonald. How are you all?
We're great. Thanks so much.
you.
Now, you guys are an existing establishment, right?
Correct.
So what are we coming here to do?
Okay, so basically give you a brief history. Table 87's been open for almost 10 years. They opened back in 2013 with beer and wine, been a staple in the area. They also have other locations. Back in 2019, we filed an alteration to add space. At that time, we contemplated upgrading to full liquor, but the owners decided not to go that route at that time. So now they're following up with that application to upgrade from beer and wine to full liquor. No other change whatsoever in the method of operation. The hours of operation are from 11 a.m. to midnight. The seating has not changed in terms of the 2019 alteration filing, which you guys also approved. It's background music only. And they've been very good operators. Their record's been clean. It's almost a decade. So it's just the ability to have liquor. When they did the alteration 2 years ago, they had a really nice bar put in, and now it's just an opportunity to utilize it. The new space to the left, if you're facing it, is somewhat of a party area. Also, it has the bar. They put some more pizza ovens in. So just the ability to have a full service restaurant with full liquor.
Great. Thanks so much. Questions from members of the committee? Hearing none. Questions from members of the public? Anyone here from the public who's got a question for this application, table 87? Hearing none. Does anyone wish to make a motion?
Motion to approve.
Ms. Einhorn with the motion. I second. Oh, I'll give it to whoever else that was. Who was that?
Emily.
Ms. Anadu, you get the second. Wonderful. All right. Any discussion on this motion? I think I'll offer the point of discussion that we have in the chat, 28 petition signatures. No complaints. Any other discussion? All right. As the most recent speaker, Ms. Anadu, how do you vote?
In favor.
Okay, Ms. Einhorn,
Approve. In favor.
Ms. Thurston,
In favor.
Ms. McKnight.
Yes.
I think I lost somebody there. Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
Mr. Varela,
In favor.
Ms. Cumberbatch.
Yes.
And I think that's it. I vote yes, and that's everybody. Okay. Congratulations. Good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Next up, 63 Flushing, Building 268, F&B Association.
Yeah, Hi, good evening, members. My name is Mastin Sansom. I'm the attorney for the applicant. I'm joined here by Zach Holt, who is the Director of Sales and Operations for the East Coast here. And this is a liquor license application, a full liquor license application with indoor space only, so no outdoor space. As you can see, there are 19 tables, 29 chairs. Sorry, we're looking at the diagram or the hours of operation here, but I do want to make one clarification on those hours of operation, and that is that it will not be open Monday and Tuesday. So I think if you crossed off the Monday and Tuesday at the top there, top left-hand corner, that would be an accurate representation of the operating hours. No live music, just background music only, no DJ. But really what I'd like to do, because this is a really cool idea, I'd like to actually turn it over to Zach Holt so he could describe a little bit about what they're looking to make happen in this space.
Okay, if you can do so briefly, that would be great. Maybe
Yeah.
a couple of minutes.
Hi, everybody.
Thanks.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, so basically this is a Stranger Things experiential, like immersive experiential programming. It's just a few months from May to October, and it's very similar to what's happening with the Van Gogh experience. So people will come in and just get to tour around and feel like they're part of the set and part of the TV show, and go into different rooms and get to take fun pictures and see a Demogorg and all that kind of fun stuff. And then at the end, they can go into a different area that has a food and beverage component and a retail component. And we would be, serving Eggo waffles and some beer and some wine.
Great.
So Zach, I'm sorry, correct me if I'm wrong. Are you looking at, is this full liquor or just beer and wine?
No, it'll be full liquor, and then there's
Okay.
there's ice cream, there's pizza, there's all sorts of stuff. I was just trying to keep it as brief as possible for everybody.
Yep, for sure.
That's great. And is this located in the Navy Yard?
Yes, that's right, in Dugal Greenhouse.
Okay, so this is not near any residences or anything like that.
No.
Okay. How many people do you all intend to employ?
Probably about 20 full-time throughout, and that's just in the food and beverage. Obviously, there's a lot more people involved in production.
Okay. And I'm sure you heard Mr. Varela's take earlier on local hiring. Is that your all's intention?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Questions from members of the committee? Ms. Thurston?
Yeah, this sounds, I'm a Stranger Things fan. This sounds exciting and cool. But, so, I'm sorry, did you just say that it's only open for a few months of the year or just 1 year? I didn't quite follow that part.
Yeah, it's a one season run, so it'll just be from May until October.
And just of 2022?
Yes, exactly. It's a limited
awesome.
experience, yeah.
And then I'm asking this with my day job as a media person. Is this like licensed? Is this like a Netflix?
Oh yeah. Netflix
Okay.
hired a marketing company, and then the marketing company hired us to do it. Yeah.
Okay, wanted to make sure we wouldn't be
There'll
seeing
be
lots of like
more
Netflix cease and desist signs. Okay.
No, but there will be more Netflix related television show runs like this. Yeah.
Okay, great. You'd be surprised. I work at Viacom CBS and we get some inquiries like this that are not sanctioned. So thank you.
Like to see you do Power of the Dog next.
Okay, good to know. I'll take that back.
I'm joking.
Right. Any other questions from the committee for the applicants? Questions from the public? Anyone here from the public who's got a question, or a board member who's got a question for this applicant?
Mr. President?
Mr. Andrews, I'm not the president, but I'm happy to take your question.
What about the accessibility issues when it comes going into the different rooms that there are, going into the bathroom? I'm wondering if all that's accessible. Did they think about that before they put it together?
Great. So to summarize Mr. Andrews' question, have you all ensured that the location is ADA accessible, and particularly the bathroom, and somebody can come in there with a wheelchair?
Yes, to my knowledge, yes, that is the case. We didn't make the building or anything like that, but it is all on one floor. I'd imagine that your building codes and like the permit for setting up the operation addresses all of that stuff. But in terms of bar height and accessibility to food and beverage, yes.
Okay. So are you familiar with whether the bathroom would be accessible for someone with a wheelchair?
I personally cannot answer that question. I'm not sure, but I mean,
Okay.
I'd imagine so.
What about in terms of getting in and out of the first floor? Is that
The entire venue is on the ground floor.
Right, but like, is the door wide enough, I guess is part of the question?
Yeah. The door's not wide enough, the wheelchair's not gonna get.
In the front of the building is a giant double door.
Okay, so there's definitely enough to fit a regular sized wheelchair through the giant double door, then is what you're saying. Okay, well, I appreciate you responding, and we thank you for that. Any other questions from members of the committee or the public for this application?
Brandon, something occurred to me, and I have to apologize if you said it before. How will people know about this?
I mean, it's posted on like event sites, various event sites through a company called Fever. So it's the same promoter that does the Van Gogh experience. They will be, doing marketing all over the place. And Netflix, in conjunction with Netflix.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
They definitely marketed that Van Gogh experience, so
Yeah.
I'm sure that they know how to do that. Anything else for this application, or does anyone want to make a motion?
Motion.
Motion from Ms. Anadu.
Let's go upside down world. Let's do it.
All right. Do we have a second?
I second.
Second from Ms. McKnight. Any discussion on the motion other than that there were some signatures of support, quite a few, and no complaints.
Correct.
All right. Well, I vote in favor. Mr. Varela, how do you vote?
Favor.
Ms. Nadu?
Favor.
Ms. McKnight?
In favor.
Ms. Thurston?
In favor.
Ms. Cumberbatch?
In favor.
Ms. Einhorn?
In favor.
I don't think I asked you, Mr. Andrews.
In favor.
Okay. Did I miss anyone? The square is rotated. I think that was unanimous. Congratulations. Good luck in your new establishment.
Thank you very much. Hope to see you all out there.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
All right, next up, 374 Pearl, Bokki Soul Food. Is this in any way connected to 345 Adams Bokki Soul Food?
Hi, thanks for having us, members. My name is Hudson. I'm here with our principal, Diane Kim. And yes, they are both connected. It's the same leasehold, but it has different addresses. So the address at 345 Adams is the former Hill Country barbecue space. I don't know if everyone here is familiar with it. And then what it is that there's also a chef's kitchen located on Pearl Street, right around the corner at 374 Pearl Street. So is it easier to speak about this in conjunction or separately?
Well, is there any difference in the application hours or?
Yes. So
why don't we go through it one by one?
Okay, that works. That's great. 374 Pearl Street is, we're operating Bokki soul food out of it right now. What we want to, when we get into a larger space, what we want to shift 374 Bokki into is going to be a chef's counter and a tasting room for, modern Korean food. It's a small little space. Most of the space that's there is a lot less seating, and it's, a counter and some outdoor seating.
Okay, and what outdoor seating is this? Is this that existing outdoor seating that sort of came with, or that was in the same area at Hill Country?
Nope, it's going to be a part of the open restaurant outdoor seating.
Oh, okay.
So it's sidewalk seats, and then it's some seats in the roadway. So it's about 2 seats on the sidewalk as a cafe, and 2 tables and 5 tables out on the roadway.
Okay. Now, how many folks are you planning to hire for the
smaller space? For this space, that's the counter, 8 we're looking at.
But for the bigger space?
For the larger space, we're looking at 40.
Oh, okay, great. So I think, paraphrasing the prior discussion, you've heard about our, while it has no bearing on the application, would suggest that folks hire locally. Do you all intend to hire locally, and maybe tap into some of the
That is our preference as well, that we found it. Like I personally just moved into Brooklyn Heights, for this. So I think that, I always think people should have a quality of life, and not needing to commute to work makes a huge difference. So it would be our intent to hire locally.
Okay. And it looks like your closing time is going to be 10 o'clock, 7 days a week?
Yep, we are not a late night operation. We don't intend to be.
Okay. Okay. Questions from members of the committee on 374 Pearl or 345 Adams?
What's the travel between the 2 spaces? What I mean is it will be there'll be a lot of movement between the 2 for the staff?
There operationally, there won't be anything connecting the 2 spaces. So we're not, it's operationally, it's a different set of staff. Each facility has its own kitchen, storage, and everything, and execution. So there isn't any travel per se.
Okay. The food is going to be the same at the both locations?
No. So what 345 Adams Street is going to be, it is, it's the former Hill Country barbecue space.
Right.
It's 10,000 square feet of space. So we're planning to use that space to develop a Korean-centric food hall in the vein of, if you want to imagine Little Spain, Mercado Little Spain, that's in Hudson Yards, but very Korean-centric. So it's going to be a combination of multiple concepts. One of them is a cafe bakery. One of them is Korean retail. Let's think about it. If you're familiar with H Mart Light, let's call it. Then we have reserved the space for rotating, Korean guest chefs, and then we'll have a sit-down dining area. And then upstairs in the former Hank Saloon space, we're developing that into a Korean gastropub. Again, not late night operations. Currently we've already, engaged and had wonderful relationships with, our direct neighbor. Obviously, the most concerning one is Brooklyn Friends School, but, we have worked with them, we've catered with them, and we've discussed, hosting events for them in our larger space, as well as our neighbors at NYU, Brooklyn Law.
Great. All right. Any other questions from members of the committee?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Andrews.
They're talking about going upstairs. Question: did you guys ever think about putting an elevator in?
There is already an elevator in the building, so it is full ADA accessible.
All right.
In fact, the restrooms are actually on the 2nd floor, so it had to be. It was by code already.
Thank you.
Good to know.
Any other questions from the committee or the public for the applicants on either 345 Adams or 374 Pearl? Okay. At this point, I think for simplicity, we should do it separately, the votes, and sorry if that's bothersome to anyone. Could I get a motion on 374 Pearl?
I motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Second, motion from Ms. McKnight, second from Ms. Cumberbatch. Any discussion on this? This is regarding 374 Pearl. I note that there were 6 letters of support provided from adjacent business owners and no complaints that were noted as well. All right. Well, I vote in favor of this application. Mr. Andrews, how do you vote? We can come back to Mr. Andrews. Mr. Varela?
In favor.
Ms. McKnight?
In favor.
Okay, Ms. McKnight and Mr. Andrews indicated they were in favor. Ms. Cumberbatch?
In favor.
Ms. Anadu?
In favor.
Ms. Einhorn?
In favor.
Can I get you, Ms. Thurston?
No, in favor.
Okay, thanks. I think that's everybody. That's everybody. Let's move on to the next one. 345 Adams. Does anyone want to make a motion on 345 Adams?
Make a motion.
Motion from Victor. Do we have a second?
I second.
Second from Ms. McKnight. Any discussion on 345 Adams? Hearing none, I vote in favor. Ms. Anadu, how do you vote?
In favor.
Ms. McKnight?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Einhorn?
Approved.
Ms. Thurston?
In favor.
Mr. Andrews?
Favor.
Mr. Varela?
Favor.
Ms. Cumberbatch?
Yes.
I think I got everybody that time too. Okay, congratulations. Unanimous on both. Really wish you the best in your new establishments. Thanks so much for presenting to us.
No, thank you so much, and I look forward to having you in our spaces. Appreciate the time.
Oh, thank you. We've got a few beer and wines on the agenda tonight. I see the first one is 373 Waverly, Impasto. Do we have somebody here from that location?
Yes, Michael Kelly representing Impasto. I'm here with Julia Pelletioni. He's the owner, also known as Luca's iPhone.
Luca Pelleson.
Okay.
Hi,
Mr. Kelly, nice to see you again.
Same here, same here. This is a tavern wine application for Impasto LLC, doing business as Impasto. They've been open and operating for 4 years at the location. There's a 150 square foot seating area and a 500-foot pizzeria with 2 tables and 5 seats inside. And they have applied and do have open restaurant seating for 6 tables and 17 seats outside. They're open from 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week with some background music. Luca is also part of Lorena at 387 Myrtle Avenue, which has an on-premise liquor license. They've been licensed since July of 2020 with no adverse history. Luca has 7 employees, 4 from the immediate area. If there are any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, so is it basically you're operating now and you want to add beer and wine?
Correct.
And not anything else changing in the way of hours or seating or?
Nothing whatsoever.
Okay. What's the outdoor area like there?
It's just seats in. Go ahead, Luca.
Yeah, it's sidewalk seating. So we don't have a roadway seating. We just have sidewalk seating, like right, on our wall.
Okay. How many tables is that?
Like five tables, about 5 tables. Some three chairs, some 4 chairs.
Okay, and this is basically on the corner of Waverly Avenue and Green Avenue, right?
Yes, correct.
Any questions from members of the committee?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Andrews?
I have to ask this question one time. Wondering, is there any accessibility going in and out of the establishment or the bathroom for that matter?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Is there any?
The question is about whether the entrance to the restaurant and the bathroom is ADA accessible.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions from members of the committee or members of the public or board members for 373 Waverly? So no complaints, 17 petition signatures. Not hearing anything else from anybody. Does anybody want to make a motion on this application?
Move to approve.
Oh, you got it, Mr. Varela. All right, I second your motion. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none. I vote in favor. Mr. Andrews, how do you vote? Okay.
In favor.
We got you. Mr. Varela,
In favor.
Ms. Thurston,
In favor.
Ms. Anadu,
In favor.
Ms. McKnight,
In favor.
Ms. Cumberbatch,
In favor.
Ms. Einhorn,
In favor.
and that should be everybody. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Have a
luck
good
with
night,
your beer
everyone.
and wine.
Thank you. Good night.
192 Duffield, Pizzeria Fuccio. I think I pronounced that right, maybe. 192 Duffield, anybody here from that location?
Yes, Anthony Caraballo with my client Mark Ferruccio. Good evening again, everybody. This is a beer and wine license only. It's a tavern wine for a pizzeria located at 192 Duffield. That is the corner of Willoughby. 2 partners are Mark Ferruccio, who's on this call with us now, and Anatoly Dubinsky. They both have significant experience in the industry, going 22 years for one, 23 for the other. Anatoly has had multiple licenses. He currently has 4 active licenses with the SLA. More larger scale things, restaurants and bars. There's a smaller project. Mark also started out in hospitality at the River Cafe. He was there for 8 years. And he recently did pop-ups at sandwiches during the pandemic. And actually his sandwiches were voted best in New York City. So they have some good experience. They're good operators. Very, very small establishment, 500 square feet. There's only 2 tables inside, 2 tops, 4 seats, another 4 at the counter. They will take advantage of the open restaurant seating once they're open, which is a couple of months down the road. They'll apply for that, the proper protocol. Background music only. Hours of operation 11 to midnight, Sunday to Thursday, and then Friday and Saturday 11 to 2. They don't really need the 2. They don't anticipate they'll be open until 2, but they just wanted to have it. Significant outreach, just under 70 petition signatures. Mark also lives in the building right on top, which is helpful. So he will certainly be a good neighbor. And we would love to address any questions the committee might have. Thank you.
Great. Any questions from the committee for the applicant?
Mr. Chair.
All right, I'm going to ask your question for you, Mr. Andrews.
There you go. There you go.
I was asking you to make that part of my presentation. Pursuant to the plans we submitted, the bathroom is handicap accessible. And there's a note on the bottom of the proposed first floor plan, it says wheelchair portable ramps will be provided. So even though it's a very small establishment, they'll be in complete compliance.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for the applicants? From the committee or from any members of the public who are here? Again, I know we've had a lot of stuff this evening. We're 192 Duffield right now is the item.
And if I yeah, quickly, Mr. Smith, there's going to be Roman pizza, which Mark will be disappointed if I didn't mention that to the committee. It's a very unique style pizza, so it's going to be a different type of pizza. Hopefully you guys will all check it out.
Okay, well, that's great to know. Thank you. All right. Well, and you guys are operating right now and you want to add the beer and wine, or you're soon to open?
No, it's under renovation, Mr. Smith. They should be open in, Mark, you can chime in, but what are you looking at, 3 to 4 months? Mark was on, I don't know where he went, but yeah, you can see the photos we submitted. They're still under renovation.
Okay, so about 3 or 4 months they're planning to open?
More or less.
Okay. That's good to know. And is there residents that live above the location, or will, I guess they probably are not now if it's under renovation?
Well, yeah, no, it is a building, and that's where one of the partners also lives there. He lives directly above.
Okay.
And they got significant petition signatures we gave to Miss Muller. I sent them over this afternoon.
Okay. All right. Does anybody want to make a motion for this application?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay. You're moving to approve, Mr. Andrews?
Yes.
Okay. And we have a second?
A second.
Second from Ms. Einhorn. Any discussion on this motion? Says 70 petition signatures, and no complaints have been raised. All right. Well, I vote in favor. Mr. Andrews, how do you vote?
In favor.
Ms. McKnight?
In favor.
Ms. Einhorn?
In favor.
Ms. Thurston?
In favor.
Mr. Varela?
In favor.
Ms. Anadu?
Favor.
Ms. Cumberbatch?
In favor.
Did I get you, Ms. Einhorn?
You did, thank you.
Okay, great. I don't think I missed anybody, but speak now. All right, you are unanimously approved. Thank you all very much. Wish you a lot of luck with your establishment.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much. Everybody has a great night. And a side note, Ms. Anadu, stellar presentation, and the ability to multitask was quite impressive. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. What do we have next? We're down to 1039A Fulton Sweetbee. This is our final item on the agenda for the evening.
Hi. How's it going? I'm Ryan with Sweetbee. We are a small cafe at 1039A Fulton. And we actually had approval for our beer and wine license previously. And then something happened with like some 30-day notice or something or other. So we had to resubmit some documents.
Oh, okay. So have you been before our committee before?
Yes, I have. Back in probably the spring of 2021, I believe.
Okay, the names sort of ring us a bell, and I'm sorry if I can't fully remember everything.
Don't worry about it. It's yeah, so we're just a small cafe. We'll be open in the mornings as a coffee shop, and then in the evenings, hope to serve beer and wine with maybe some like Filipino inspired tapas. My business partner is from the Philippines. So yeah, and it's in our lease that we have to close by 10 p.m. So we're not a late night operation.
Okay, and you have not opened yet?
Correct. We are still in the process of the build out, hoping to open in maybe May.
Okay. Great. So, and nothing has changed from when you got approved by our committee previously?
Correct.
Okay, I don't see anything to that effect. Where's the outdoor seating there?
It is in the backyard.
Okay. And you have residents?
There are people on both sides of us, but no one above us.
Okay. Have you spoken with those people in the other apartments?
Very briefly, only like in passing. They seem pretty excited about a cafe coming in. Yeah, so.
Okay. Any questions from members of the committee for the applicant? Keeping in mind, we have heard from him before. Questions from members of the public? Any members of the public or board members have questions for the applicant? Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Okay, before we do, I'm just curious if the office has anything to say about the issues with the time lapse or the 30-day. Is anything of note? I don't just want to make sure I understand.
No, nothing to note. It was the applicant is required to alert the community board and give the board 30 days before submitting their application, which they did last spring 2021, I believe. And then they have 247 days, I think it is, between that point to complete their application to the SLA. If they don't complete during that time, they have to come back.
Got it. Thank you.
So the board did nothing wrong. You're good.
Thank you.
All right. Does anybody want to make a motion for this application?
I
I motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, who had the original motion? They were off screen for me.
Nicole did.
Oh, Ms. McKnight, we got you. Ms. McKnight with the motion, Mr. Varela with the second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. I vote to approve. Mr. Varela, how do you vote?
To approve.
Ms. Nadu?
Approve.
Okay. Ms. Thurston?
Approve.
Mr. Andrews?
Approve.
Ms. McKnight?
Yes.
Ms. Cumberbatch?
In favor.
Ms. Einhorn?
Sorry, the mute button. Approve.
Okay. That is unanimous. Congratulations again.
All right,
Good luck
thank you so much.
this time, and wish you the best of luck with your new establishment.
Yeah, thank you so much. Take care.
All right. Thank you. Let's go next on the agenda for the evening. Chairperson's report. That seems to be me. A couple of things that I'd like to report on at tonight's meeting, just to keep everybody updated on what we're planning to do for the rest of the year, which is quickly drawing to a close. My plan is in consultation with Ms. McKnight and the board office to try to offer some additional presentations this year, hopefully on maternal mortality, on climate change. I can foresee Mr. Chaim Gross hopefully returning to our committee at some point. He's expressed an interest in discussing some new options with Solarize NYC, and the National Grid folks we're hoping to get them back at some point in the future too. But feel free to drop us an email if you have ideas or things that you want to hear from in terms of our meetings, and we'll keep that in the conversation. Secondly, on the issue of district needs, I just want to encourage everybody to have some patience with the board office, which I'm sure we already do, because I know we've been wanting to get the agency. Sorry, is the recording okay?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, no worries, no worries. I know we've been waiting to get the agency responses back yet, but it's a pretty time-consuming process for them to put together, and I don't think the agencies have even necessarily sent it to them yet. So I would just encourage everybody's patience with that, and we'll get back to talking with about district needs in the coming months. I still want to target June. I hope to try to finalize everybody's district needs, but I'm sure each of you remember that we each took away a topic to focus on, and I'll try to recirculate it between this date and the next date, and hopefully we can we can try to crystallize something in that regard. I definitely have thoughts on my idea. What else do I want to say? I want to note that the health fair idea that we approved last month is pending a review with Mr. Singletary right now. Want to have patience with him to be able to review the idea, because it's a commitment for the community board to engage in, and would require some significant buy-in on his part. I am going to continue to follow up with him to try to make sure that we do get up and running on this as soon as we can. But that's where we stand with it, and I'll update on it next month when we meet again. Otherwise, I don't have anything else to report, so I think we can go into other business at this point. Does anybody have any other business that they'd like to raise at this meeting? Ms. Nadu.
Hi again. I've been talking so much. So I know that we have someone coming next month to speak as part of the agenda from the New York City Cannabis Industry Association. And so I've been just personally trying to get very smart about everything that is happening. And so I attended, oh yeah, sorry, it's a different committee. Thank you. But one thing, so the woman that is coming from that committee actually attended one of her committee meetings just as part of the NYCCIA. But then last night I went to a wonderful session with Tremaine Wright, who used to be an assemblywoman, I believe, Alejandro, thank you. A few people are nodding if I get her title wrong. She would be amazing to come and speak to us because she's chairing the OCM. And like, in a way, compared to what I heard at the meeting that I went to with NYCCIA, her actual knowledge of what's happening and how community boards will be playing into it too, orgs. Yes. But then specifically the official state body, I think it would just be really interesting for us to hear what they have coming up in terms of education sessions, and also just what the actual licensing process is, what the different licenses are, et cetera, since this body will obviously be involved in that process. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Alejandro. But Tremaine it was absolutely like an amazing session. So I just encourage, and I think it would be good for us and I also just imagine it would be, because one of the other things that I'm hearing in all of these sessions is people are specifically telling people to get involved with community boards and to specifically get involved with the HESS committees because of the part that they will play. So I think we're just going to see a lot more interest in our committees. But I think it would just behoove us, obviously, if we can have access to Tremaine to get a session from her as we approach this, what will be a crazy time in New York.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing your thought, Emily. I think definitely something we can take away in between. I want to let the board office and Mr. Singletary have a bit of discretion in where this issue ultimately gets placed. I do kind of note that it seems to be popping up in a lot of places. Like I saw something in the chat about ED and E. I'm not sure exactly what that is. Is that
economic development and employment?
Economic development. Then I heard about it in transportation, and then we have our committee. And I will note our bylaws state that our committee is specifically denoted to perform liquor license reviews. And it doesn't say, it doesn't talk about anything beyond that in terms of reviews. But I'm not saying that we should definitely not do this, but I just want to note those facts and just think that, you know, perhaps there's a way that that we can take it away and figure out where this best sits in the community board. And maybe if the powers that be say it sits with us, then absolutely we'll take it up with us.
And just a sorry clarification, the two things that at least Tremaine thought would end up with our committee, because basically there's the dispensary and the consumption, because those are two specific different licenses that actually can't be held together, and because of our role in liquor. So yes, I know there's still decisions being made, but yes, but to clarify on her point, not the whole string of licenses, but specifically, especially when it comes to consumption, given the work we do on liquor licenses.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Ms. Einhorn, I also saw you had your hand up.
Just a perhaps somewhat random thought about the discussions that are going to happen around dispensaries. It's so important for the community to have a voice and a forum for conversations around licenses that are going to go to these dispensaries. But I have to admit, one of my initial thoughts was it's going to take the whole meeting between the liquor licenses and conversations around these, which are obviously going to be a hot topic for a while and perhaps be very long conversations. I'm wondering if there's a way to consider that and make sure we have a forum while also making sure that this committee is able to attend to business outside of licenses. And maybe that should be part of the conversation.
I think that's a fair thought. I mean, we'll definitely take that away, and I think to a certain degree, it's a bit Mr. Singletary's prerogative where we ultimately go with this stuff. But I do note that point, and you know, if you think about the kinds of stuff we have to handle in our committee, we've got health-related matters, we've got environment, climate change, and the concerns that we've got there. We've got sanitation, we've got homelessness, and then we've also got liquor licenses. And then there have been some concerns expressed by other committees about, you know, they only deal with like one topic. So I think all of that is fair to discuss, and I don't want to say we're not going to do this or we're going to do it, but it's definitely something that we'll keep in mind for the upcoming meetings. Any other topics? I have a topic on other business I want to just mention briefly, but I can wait until anybody else has their topics resolved. Hearing none. Okay, so I just wanted to note, after we had that great presentation last month with Ms. Feibush and the folks from sanitation, that the mayor seems to have announced that a desire to cut back on the composting program. And I'm just wondering what everybody's thoughts are about that, and you know, if there's anything that we would want to do about it. Ms. Thurston?
Hello, I have many thoughts and feelings, and my primary thought is that I know this is politically motivated for him, which is very frustrating. It is not at all grounded in the fact that this is a relatively insignificant cost and has so many externalities to it. So if there's if there's an opportunity for us to maybe write a letter that would come from the full board, maybe that's something we discuss at the executive committee meeting next month too. I know we didn't really talk about it Monday. Maybe that's the way to do it, but it's so short-sighted and political that I would love for us to stand up against this decision.
Ms. Einhorn, I saw you had your hand up first.
Yeah, I think I have a lot of concerns about the mayoral agenda that's coming out in the last week. I would say that for this committee, it's not just compost, it's the removal of the homeless from the subway system. The state is also supporting that decision by providing an additional 500 beds at area hospitals for people with mental health issues. And they're talking about making it so that anyone who refuses to go to shelter from the subway station, that's enough for an involuntary hold. I have huge concerns about that. So there are 3 encampments currently in the subway system. They're talking about demolishing those 3 encampments. They're talking about making it so that no one can sleep on the subway. And if they refuse a ride to shelter, then it could be an automatic involuntary hold, because who but a crazy person would refuse shelter from the public system? And that's going to be the argument. I am mortified by that chain of thought. In the meantime, people are being forcibly removed from the subway and they are not being offered shelter. And that is also a concern. There are a couple of statistics that were out in the news this week, but basically people who are transported or offered shelter by street teams, only about 8% of them are ending up in the shelter system long-term. And I think the social service aspect of this is just being completely obviously a secondary thought, not the primary thought. And again, this is entirely politically motivated based on the safety concerns off of 2 incidents. And I obviously am going on at nauseum here, but I think we have to talk about both of these issues in a larger forum.
Okay. Any other comments or thoughts from the committee?
Well, just my own experience in terms of having registered my co-op for composting, it's apparent that they don't have the bandwidth to do what they're doing right now. So I don't know what specifically they may have shared as to barriers, but I know that it's only once a week to my knowledge. So we're pretty much holding compost for the week because our pickup is on Friday and it's often always overflowing in the evenings. So I don't know if that's an issue.
I guarantee I can't disagree that that's not an issue. That sounds like an issue. And I'm sure everybody agrees that that's an issue. Did anybody have any other comments on the composting issue, or
I support the idea of a committee at least, but even a board letter in support
of the issue of what?
I mean, of maintaining the compost program and of supporting it, investing in it as opposed to disinvesting. That's what we're talking about, right?
Right.
Okay. Sorry.
Did you want to make a motion in that regard?
Yeah, I move that we write a letter of support for the program, for investment in the program, and that we enumerate the various reasons why composting on a grand scale in such a major city could have a tremendous impact on, the words fail me, I want to say.
Well, perhaps we could enumerate that in the discussion phase.
Yes, sure. But yes, a letter of support for the composting program.
Is there a second for Mr. Varela?
I second it.
Mr. Smith?
Ms. Miller, I've got a motion and a second. We proceed with the discussion, but is there something you'd like to add?
Yeah, so you actually wouldn't vote on it just yet. The process for this is that anyone on this committee can put forth an action report, which is just the district terminology for a 1 or 2 page memo. We have a couple samples that the office can share. If you want a more recent example, actually the Land Use Committee is presenting one that you'll get via email tonight if you want an example. But basically someone would present an action report. It needs to be submitted 1 week before the meeting and noticed in the agenda so that it's publicly noticed. The committee would then discuss it as part of the agenda, and then you can forward that to the general meeting. But anyone can do one, and I'm super excited about these. I hope that we do more action reports soon. So if anyone wants to work with me on that, I'm happy to help.
Could I ask you, Ms. Muller, where is this stated in the bylaws?
It's not explicitly stated in the bylaws, but the process is well documented. I actually have examples going back 20 years. It's maybe not as familiar to the committee because typically committees respond to agenda items that are given to them. But this is just a reminder that the committee can also generate agenda items. And this is the process to do it. A recent example was the action report that was submitted that maybe you read about the Columbus statue issue. So that was an example of that wasn't brought to the committee by a city agency. It was generated by the committee itself.
Right. So where's the document that requires us to follow this process?
It's not a formalized document, but in the
Okay.
same way that you ask SLA applicants to go through a process to provide you with all the information and context that you need to make an informed vote. This is how the district seems to have done it.
Okay. Ms. Anadu, you had your hand up.
So, and apologies, I don't know enough about specifically the reasoning behind the composting being taken away, but I would say that at the end of the day, there's like there's a limited amount of money. And so, for example, if I knew that composting was taken away because the money was needed and was used for something else, and it was something else that I might feel differently about it. So I would just say that it would be helpful. Maybe it's just for myself and I can go do that, educate myself in that way. But that we as a group are balanced in understanding that there are probably, in the same way that when we consider our district needs, that we can't solve for everything. And I'm not suggesting that the city made a very good trade-off, but I just think that it would, and maybe everyone else knows what that trade-off was and I'm just not aware, but I would just say that we have to be conscious of that there are limited funds. And again, I'm not saying that composting is not important. I'm not saying, but again, I just don't know enough to be able to support the move for, yes, let's fight for composting, because I don't know what the effort, energy, resources, money are now being used instead of. If I heard it was something to like repaint tennis courts in like one neighborhood, of course I would say that's ridiculous, but I would just like it seems like it would behoove us as a group to make sure that we have the view. And again, I'm not suggesting that no one else had that, but again, I don't know enough about the full issue. So.
Okay. Well, my understanding of parliamentary procedure is that if we wanted to, having already made a motion and seconded it, we can move to table the motion if we wanted to do some further research on it. But I'd like to hear what anyone else has to say and their thoughts from the committee. Does anyone else have a perspective on this?
I think she makes a valid point. I would just say that the New York Times article indicated it was like 0.002% related to the proposed budget. That's what the cut would be. But when you look at that over a span of 5 years, it goes into several million.
Okay.
I'm fine to table and discuss totally, so we can do more research. I guess my push would be that there will always be competing interests for budget money, and I think every issue that falls within our purview that we support, we should just push for it. There's money there. I mean, generally speaking, I feel that with any city, with any municipality, I could find a million ways in which they are misspending money. You know, I have my feelings on lots of things that are overfunded or anyway. So I just feel like we have to just push for the issues that matter to us, all of them. And you know, if someone were to say to me, I just don't believe that the way the budget works is that someone's going to say, we took this from preschool education in order to fund this. You know, they're much too opaque about that. Really, I think we're fighting for what's there, but we could target the letter to say what we don't think the money should be spent on. You know, maybe there are a handful of things that we say, listen, we would like for the money not to be spent. I don't want to say because I don't know if we're all on the same page, but I can think of a few things that the city is overspending on. And if they could earmark that for something that has a kind of a long-term positive effect on society, then I'm all for it.
Okay. Ms. Einhorn?
So I think I agree that I want to support composting in our neighborhood, but I also want to do the research first, because I do think there are a couple of different ways, aside from doing an action report and saying that citywide the budget shouldn't be cut. We could be looking at how we want to make appeals for our community's budget in general for composting. And if we want to talk to some nonprofits who might be able to take up some of the slack in areas where composting is most utilized as a program, that might be an interesting way to think about it.
Okay. Well, does somebody want to make a motion to table then, now that we're in the course of discussing the motion?
With a mouthful of nachos, motion to table.
Okay, I second. And let's make this as easy as possible. I vote in favor. How do you vote, Jessica?
Second.
In favor.
I think that was Victor's
Favor.
yes vote. Mr. Varela?
I'm going to abstain on this one.
Okay. Ms. McKnight?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Einhorn?
Yes.
Ms. Nadu?
Yes.
Ms. Cumberbatch?
Yes.
And I get you, Ms. McKnight? Okay, I did. Great. I think I got everybody. The motion is officially tabled. At this juncture, I would just wonder, is there anybody who's particularly interested in taking the lead on drafting an action report?
Does that have to be the automatic? Can we start with some research
That's what I was
before an
gonna
action
ask.
report?
Could.
I'm so sorry.
I'll take a co-lead. I can't, it's petitioning season, I'm a little crunched, but I'm happy, and I also can very much help with the research, and by that I mean we'll have Sandy Neris help us because she's on the front lines of this.
I'm super happy to help. It'll help me get smart about city budgeting. Happy to help.
Amazing. Great. I think this will be a great process. Thanks, everybody. And if anybody else is interested, just let us know. All right. What do we have next on the agenda? Community forum. And Ms. Hoffman, you're still here. I'd love to hear from you at community forum. Would you like the floor?
Thank you very much. Thank you for letting me sort of explain the situation and see what we can do on this application. I have been working for a while with the operators El Cezanne. They're at 491 Atlantic. They also sort of just like your last applicant, Sweetbee, they have come before you, and this is they've sort of, I think, sort of fallen a little bit through the crack here. They came before you with the full package and were approved for full liquor a while back. We are desperately trying to help them get open. They opened on a shoestring budget, and with the new law that allows temporary retail permits for beer and wine, we had resubmitted a notice for beer and wine, and then a new one for full liquor, because ultimately we'd like to get them an upgrade. And we had spoken to Carol Ann, I guess literally like her last week, And she had said, oh, we don't think you'd need to appear again. We've already approved it for full liquor. We would have no problem with doing this as beer and wine. And so, but that was literally, I think, probably like, like her last week. And so this is sort of a little bit where we have fallen here. This is, there's sort of no changes other than we are currently downgrading to beer and wine in order to try to get them a liquor license, get them something earlier. They've been open, it's a very family operation. And so we now have a pending license because, or we submitted the license application, the SLA, which is like in danger of being disapproved if we don't have any sort of anything from the community board, which we sort of submitted because, we also were under the impression, oh yeah, you don't have to appear again. We're actually downgrading from what you had approved already. And then we'll ultimately have to come back to upgrade again to full liquor. And so it's the same application each and every time. And so we had submitted the questionnaire again, but we didn't go back and submit new petitions, certainly. And so I think this is sort of a unique, a different situation. I didn't have, anyone in the committee's contact information. I reached out to, I think the board chair. Just again, I'm trying to do. I'm doing my work for them, mostly pro bono, and just trying to help them get up and running sooner rather than later, and asking for some help here. And I honestly, if you need them to come back, that's fine. But I think even Carolyn had mentioned she prepared the waiver and it was sent. I don't know whether it was sent to you, Brandon, or to Jessica. But we have often, again. Well,
Ms. Hoffman, we're volunteers, like you might imagine. So
Yeah.
we don't get things on behalf of the office. But what we'll do is we'll talk about it in the interim. We'll try to get back to you. We'll try to get you an understanding of what the most appropriate course of action is. And I know about it, your issue now. So let me take this one away. Can we agree on that?
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else from the community have any questions?
Now, do you have my contact information directly, or can I guess
I
you
do.
can? Okay. All right. Great.
Thanks, Ms. Hoffman.
All right. Thank you, Brandon.
All right.
Bye.
Any other members of the community have comments? All right. I don't know why I muted myself. Okay, at this point, I will entertain a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Wait, Brendan, with respect to what Elke just said, Elke Hoffman, what you said that between now and then we would chat, what are we going to talk offline? Is this something you're going to deal with the office?
It's something I'm
directly?
going to talk about to the board office about.
thank
I
you.
want to understand the appropriate protocol, and I understand what Ms. Hoffman's issue is now, but I'd like to talk to the board office about it in between.
Okay, thank you. Move to approve. I move to adjourn. Brandon, can you stay on after this for 5 minutes? Tay asks.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
By many people is how I documented
Thanks.
it. Bye.
Good night,
Have a good night,
everybody.
folks.
Good night, guys.